I'd either be punched, I was stabbed with a pin, I was choked with the rod in my closet. He, in front of all of this, is in front of our child. He, in our house in Oklahoma, he dumped Dawn dish soap on my face and then poured water on me so I couldn't see, and then had my son pour water on me as well.
Run that by me, ma'am. You're alleging that Mr. Hughes shot you with a firearm?
Yes, it was an accident, but it did happen because
Oh,
he
okay.
can be very reckless.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You just gave me the equivalent of about 8 shots of espresso, ma'am. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, because I'm going to say this hearing's over. Real. Okay. All right. Thank you. Whew.
Sir, can I say something, Your Honor?
Yeah, because Mr. Hughes, it's really hard to shoot somebody clean your gun. Okay, it really the good judge is a big time gun guy. I gave my name
So,
to my son, so yeah, so
so
so I'm having a little trouble with that one, sir. So
no,
you might
that's understandable.
explain this one.
So,
This is in the interest of Hughes Manor, and both parties have previously been noticed and served and been operating under a temporary order in this matter. So at this time, we're here today for final hearing. Ms. Lambert's present, the parties are present, the state is present. So at this time, I'll let the lawyers give the court an opening statement to tell them what they are requesting we do here today. So I'm going to ask the state to do that in behalf of the state, and Ms. Lambert to do that in behalf of the child.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state is asking this court to hopefully do a final order today with appropriate rulings for conservatorship of the one child. This case already has the temporary order where Mr. Hughes was the father without any DNA testing. This court didn't give either parent the right to decide domicile, so the state would ask for a ruling on that today. Possession and access has been where mother gets the child every weekend. The state's asking the court for final orders and whether that's still appropriate. The exchanges for the child were mom to pick up from the child's school or daycare and then return at that quick trip. Just asking whether that remains appropriate given whatever the schedule is. This court did not order support from either parent in the temporary order. So the state is asking that support be addressed in this final order. And it's the state's understanding that evidence from the parents will show private health and dental insurance in place for the child. The state would ask that, if appropriate, that continue and that the court address the issue of whether cash medical, cash dental should be ordered. And then as far as support, Your Honor, we didn't have anything for current, but I believe there is a request for retroactive support, depending on what the court ultimately rules today. And then non-disclosure was held in abeyance until final. And then court costs, Your Honor, just a ruling on that, please.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Mongat. Ms. Lambert.
Thank you, Your Honor. My opening pretty much mirrors Ms. Bongat's. I was appointed as an ad litem in this case, ultimately to make a recommendation regarding which parent ought to be made primary and then what visitation was appropriate. At the time of the initial court hearing, the child had been residing with the father and enrolled in school. The parents had initially agreed to that, although there seems to be a misunderstanding on when that would end. And the mother believed that the child would eventually return home to live with her and be enrolled here in Bell County. The father lives in the Dallas area. The co-parenting relationship between the parents has continued to deteriorate. However, I want to be clear that as an ad litem in your court, Your Honor, I pretty much stand on I do not like disrupting a child or removing a child unless there's a showing that it's in the child's best interest, and that has to rise to more than the level of just one parent wanting the child to return. And that's pretty much the situation that we're in. My current recommendation is that the child would remain with the father as he's enrolled there, involved in extracurricular activities there, is enrolled in therapy there. However, I want to also be clear that Ms. Mitchell is a capable mother. She does not pose any concerns for me regarding her ability to care for the child. So if the court upon testimony today finds that she ought to be designated primary, I'm in no way opposed to that. I would defer to the wisdom of the court. I would love to see both parents work on their communication and co-parenting skills, but I do not have concerns that either parent is neglectful or lacks the ability to make decisions that are in the children's best interest. So I would recommend and ask, Your Honor, that the father be made primary, mom be given a standard possession order. Again, in the alternative, if the court rules to do something different, I would be on board with that as well.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and get some testimony. And in this testimony, I need to get this child is going to be 7 later this year. So I need to get a timeline on the last 7 years, where he's been located and in what circumstances. Because obviously, this is a Bell County case and not a Dallas County case. So there's got to be a history there for that for some reason or another. So let's find out what's going on. Let's get some testimony on what's been going on for the last 6.5 years. And we'll take it from there. So at this time, Mr. Hughes and Ms. Mitchell, please both raise your right hands. All right, do you both solemnly swear or affirm your testimony going to give here today the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
And Ms. Mitchell, you're muted, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
All right, you're both officially on the oath. I'm going to let the state call you both as witnesses. And like I say, at the end of the hearing, if there's anything either you think I need to know, as far as the closing statement or closing argument is concerned, you'll be allowed to do so. But I'll go ahead and let the state call you as witnesses, and then let the Dan Lanham cross-examine. You may proceed at this time, Ms. Bongat. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Ms. Mitchell. Ma'am, what is your full name?
Whitney Renee Mitchell.
Who is the child in this case?
My son, Marcus Hughes, Jr.
And ma'am, who is your son's father?
Marcus Hughes.
At this time, ma'am, are you currently employed?
I am.
What amount do you earn?
$23.50 an hour.
How many hours per week?
40.
And how long has this been your rate of pay?
Since January.
Do you have any other children, ma'am?
No.
And does your work provide you any benefits for dependents, such as health or dental insurance?
Yes, he is on my dental, not my medical, but yes.
And ma'am, please remind me, what is the cost for the dental from you?
It may be like $5 a month. I don't know exactly, but it's between $5 and $10 a month.
Okay. And ma'am, were you seeking any reimbursement from the father if you are the person who gets support in this case?
No.
Okay. And then, ma'am, starting with your son's birth, where has he lived as far as city and with whom?
Up until he was maybe 3 or 4, we lived in St. Louis. From St. Louis, we lived in Oklahoma, because Marcus changed. He got a promotion in Oklahoma, so we moved with him to Oklahoma. We stayed there. Again, he was between 3 and 4. I don't know exactly. And then from there, Marcus decided he wanted to take another position in Temple. So then we moved to Temple, Texas. And then I moved to Killeen after we lived in Temple. So we've been in, I think, Texas for 2 years now, I think.
And so until the move to Killeen, ma'am, have you all lived together as a family unit?
Until, yes, he moved in the house with me in Killeen. And then he moved out later that year in December.
Do you recall which year, ma'am?
I want to say 2022. I could totally be wrong. I think it was 2022.
Okay. So based on that, ma'am, you all have been separated for a little over a year.
Yeah, over a year for sure.
Okay.
We weren't together when he moved in Killeen.
Sorry, ma'am, would you repeat that?
We weren't together when he moved into my house in Killeen.
Okay, so at that point, you were sharing the residence, but no longer romantically involved.
Correct.
Okay, and
Sorry,
then
real quick, when did y'all separate in Temple, man? When did you move to Killeen, if you recall?
It was I moved in Killeen in May of 2022.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Mug. I'm sorry, I just want to get my time right.
thank you, Your Honor. And ma'am, has your son ever been enrolled in a daycare or school district in his, well, while he's lived with you?
Yes, he was in daycare out here in Killeen.
And then, ma'am, when Mr. Hughes moved out in December of 22, what arrangement did you all have for sharing time with your son?
The arrangement was we pulled him out of daycare out here because Marcus worked Thursday through Sunday at the time, and I was off on weekends, so we didn't need daycare arrangement. So he took him during the week, and then I would get him on weekends, but I never consented to MJ going to school out there. I had enrolled him that year in school out here before Marcus could enroll him out there.
And this is still 2023 prior to August, beginning of school?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you all just make the arrangements and agreements verbally, or were there exchanged emails and text messages?
There verbally, but then also in text messages, I have stating I did not want him to go to school with him out there. And had it not been for him threatening me multiple times, MJ would have been out here with me.
And so, ma'am, you said you would have, or you had intended to enroll your son. So at what point did he go with Mr. Hughes and then not get returned to you?
That was during the school year. He started in August.
So prior to the school year starting, Mr. Hughes already had him for the week and weekend or a longer period?
So he had already had him. Our arrangement was he'd keep him Sunday night through Thursday, and I would get him Thursday through the weekend. And then I took him back that Sunday, and he put him in school that Monday, or whatever day they started, Tuesday.
And before he actually did that, ma'am, did you have any notice that it was going to happen?
Yes, I didn't know he was putting him in school, and that was one of the arguments that we had. And I did send a video to Miss Lambert where he was upset, and then threatened to drive to my house because I wanted MJ to be enrolled in school out here. And he just kept saying, when am I going to see my son? And he was upset at me for doing that, for saying I wanted him in school out here.
Okay. And then as far as the time you've gotten to spend with your son on weekends, do you have any complaints other than it's not long enough or that you want him to live with you primarily?
Oh, I do. I have a lot of complaints, but yes, I do.
Okay. And so what, aside from you just having more time or being primary, are those complaints?
My complaints are the well-being of my son. I believe that Marcus is somewhat capable of taking care of him. He's already proven he can't keep a roof over his head because he's been evicted. My son has made comments.
Stop here just a second, man. Do not testify to anything the child has said, okay? That's hearsay. You cannot do that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You can tell the court you're concerned, but don't testify to anything a third party said.
Okay. Behavior-wise, I am concerned about his behavior. That is one thing that I'm very concerned about, is his learned behavior that he's learning around his dad.
What specifically has he done that makes you concerned that he's learned it from his father?
His actions, the way that he lashes out, how he acts whenever he doesn't get his way. He's had issues at school with threatening a little girl. I don't even know that am I allowed to say what he said, or that the school officials told me that he said, or not at all?
No, you're not allowed to.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Okay. So he made threats to a student. I'm very concerned about that. The shooting incident that happened with his dad a couple of years ago, he has made a comment about the shooting. So I'm very concerned about my child's, at least, mental well-being, and the fact that, and Ms. Lambert can testify that Marcus has lied to the therapist about why MJ is enrolled in school, or why he's enrolled in therapy. Does not help MJ at all. She thinks he's in for one reason when it's completely for a different reason. So she can't evaluate him based on family violence when she didn't know family violence was happening until I talked to her.
And since you bring that up, ma'am, when did your son start therapy?
I believe in October of last year, but I could be wrong there. I wasn't really, I think it was October.
So this wasn't something that you saw or decided needed to happen prior to him living between the two of you?
No, Marcus and I had agreed that he needed to be in therapy. But I didn't know at the time what he had told the therapist. I didn't know what Marcus had told him the intake was, why he was putting him in therapy. until I had spoken with the therapist myself.
And then, ma'am, as far as your son's school performance, not including the threat you mentioned, is he doing well academically? Do you know?
No. From my talks with his teacher, he knows 7 out of 67 sight words. By the time he reaches 3rd grade, he should know 300 sight words. So that will already put him back. Yes, he knows his numbers. He can count to 100. And he might be progressing a little bit, but they did a map testing that Marcus had sent to Miss Lambert that indicated in reading, he, I believe, was a 314 or 316 out of 460. So he still wasn't, he's below average, not above average in those things. I'm very concerned. I tried to go over sight words with him. He can't recall a sight word. He can tell you the 3 most recent ones that he learned. But when I go to weeks prior, what they learned in school, he can't tell me anything. And his teacher said he has trouble with comprehension, even shapes, and some math.
Okay. And then, ma'am, what is your current work schedule?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
And, well, if you are named primary, is there going to be a daycare plan for whenever you, until you, sorry, Your Honor?
No, nothing. I didn't say anything, sorry.
Not a problem, Your Honor. I'm not looking at the screen, so I wasn't sure where that noise was coming from. Let's see. And Ms. Mitchell, as far as support goes, were you wanting both current and back child support?
Not back child support, but current.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, I pass this witness.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Lambert, you're a witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Mitchell, going back to the agreement that you and Mr. Hughes had regarding MJ going to live with Dad, was there a specific date that the two of you discussed where MJ would come back to Bell County?
There wasn't a specific date. I just figured by kindergarten he would come out here to me because I had strongly put that out in the air that he needs to be in school with me and not him.
Okay. But there was never an agreement as to that. That was your preference, and Dad obviously had a different preference.
No, there was just we couldn't agree on that. But
okay, so there was never an agreement. You wanted the child to return. Dad did not. There was never a meeting of the minds that the child would in fact return. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I know that Dad enrolled MJ into school. You stated that you attempted to enroll the child into school. When did you find out that Mr. Hughes had already enrolled MJ?
I'd have to look at my phone. I believe it was right before school started. I think a week before school started. I could be wrong, but that's when he texted me.
Thank you. And then I know that both of you agreed as you testified to enrolling MJ into therapy. Who found the therapist for MJ?
He did.
Okay. Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Okay. And did you play any role in locating the therapist or have any say in whether this you thought was a good match for MJ?
No, he called me the day of therapy and said that he needed $75 for his first visit when he was at the office.
And so while both of you agreed to enroll MJ into therapy, Mr. Hughes was the one who took the initiative to go ahead and get that ball rolling?
Yes. Because it's under his insurance, yes.
Yes, ma'am. I know that you mentioned that you have some concerns about MJ residing with his dad. In general, his well-being, you believe that Mr. Hughes has a lack of stability. You mentioned evictions. How many evictions has Mr. Hughes had since MJ has been living with him?
Well, at the last complex that he was at, he had an eviction from July to November before he got kicked out.
Is that the only one that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of, correct.
Okay. And is he, as far as you know, in a new living situation now?
Yes, outside of the school district, yes.
Okay. You mentioned also that you had some concerns about MJ's behavior. Have you had a mental health professional confirm your suspicions that Mr. Hughes is the cause for those behavioral issues? No,
because the therapist is under the impression that he's in for something different.
So you've not had a mental health professional confirm that Mr. Hughes is the root cause of any of his concerns, of your concerns?
No, I have not.
And then regarding his educational performance, do you have, I guess, any professional discernment? How do you know that Mr. Hughes is the cause for MJ not succeeding versus a potential learning disability?
I don't know.
So of your concerns, you cannot connect them.
Have you had a chance to review his report cards or his grades, ma'am?
They don't give grades in kindergarten, but I have had a discussion with his teacher.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
No.
You don't get grades in kindergarten up there, huh? Okay.
No, they don't give grades in kindergarten, but I did talk to the teacher. I'm the one that reached out about an IEP. I talked to her and she said we needed to talk to his guidance counselor. Now, I don't know if Mr. Hughes followed up with that or not, but I'm the one that's trying to get him help, as I stated to you as well.
All right, you may proceed, Ms. Lambert. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Mitchell, do you think if the school was able to provide an IEP or a learning plan for MJ that would help him?
I would hope so.
Okay. In the event that the court rules that MJ will reside with you, would you have any issue with Mr. Hughes having a standard possession order?
Can you explain what that is?
That would be because they're more than 100 miles apart, 1 week in a month of Mr. Hughes choosing every spring break, alternating major holidays, 42 days during the summer.
No, that'd be fine.
During the period of time that MJ is with you on the weekends, does Mr. Hughes provide you any financial support?
No.
And do you provide him any financial support for the weeks that MJ is with him?
No.
Okay. And so ultimately today, what is it that you're requesting that the court would do regarding deciding who MJ would live with primarily?
I would want the court to decide that he would live with me.
No further questions, sir.
All right, ma'am, you use those terms of art. What are you alleging is the family violence that has occurred between you and the father in this matter? Because there's no family violence indicator with the pleadings in this matter. So what are you alleging happened, ma'am, and when did it happen? Or the various occasions this happened, and I need you to break them down chronologically and be specific. Thank you.
I mean, it started when I was pregnant with MJ. That's when the first family violence started. I couldn't tell you days and times, but I can tell you that every year, about once a month, I'd either be punched, I was stabbed with a pin, I was choked with the rod in my closet. All of this is in front of our child. He, in our house in Oklahoma, he dumped Dawn dish soap on my face and then poured water on me so I couldn't see, and then had my son pour water on me as well. I had to shower and couldn't see for 5 minutes in the shower because I was washing all the soap out of my face. I've been punched in the back of the head, stabbed with a fork, which has left me a scar. He stabbed me with a spatula, the stick of a spatula. There was one instance where he bit me and hit me. I did call the police, but they did come, but I didn't press charges. And that's when CPS was involved at that point in time.
Great, slow down. All right. When did that incident take place?
In October of last year. I'm sorry, October of 23.
All right. And which police department was called for the incident?
Colleen, PD.
And you say CPS got involved?
Yes, CPS did get involved.
All right. And what did you ever get anything in writing from CPS, or do you remember the name of the assigned caseworker of any kind?
I believe her name is Kristen. I can pull up the paperwork. I have it with me. But they did decide that MJ was the victim, alleged victim, and then Marcus was the suspect. And it says that he did have negligence. I can pull it up and read it.
Okay, don't read it out now. I'm just getting there. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, because again, technically that's still hearsay.
Okay.
I would need to get the person who wrote it to come in and testify.
Okay. And then there's also the shooting, which I understand that Ms. Lambert has said that I've labeled it as an accident. So that's just him being reckless. However, he said in a video that I've sent to Ms. Lambert that he does have a gun. So I am also worried about him being reckless in front of my child again.
All right. For the courts, for the record, ma'am, what was the shooting incident? When did it happen, and what were the circumstances?
It's been 3 years now in March. Well, it was an accident. It was in St. Louis. He aimed it at my head, or he held the gun to my head. He also held it to his head. And I guess he didn't think that it was loaded. So then he aimed it at me and I was laying down. It hit my arm and went through my chest. I still have the bullet inside of me.
All right. Let's get back to why you're in Texas. Are there any other incidences that you want to tell the court about?
I think I've labeled them all while I was in Texas. He's choked me, stabbed me, hit me, punched me, threw a remote at my face, made my nose bleed. All of this in front of my child.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Anything else on redirect, Ms. Bongat?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. If you move from your current place to somewhere else, would you be hesitant to update Mr. Hughes of your residence?
Yes.
Anything more recent than the incidents you were just describing to judge?
Right before I filed for custody last year in March, there was an incident where he threw the phone into my car and it hit me in the eye and gave me a black eye. And also I guess the weekend before that, he got upset and I drove off. He drove off in front of me with MJ in his car. He stopped. He slammed on his brakes so that I could hit his car. Fortunately, my car stopped it before I could hit him. And then he drove off.
And ma'am, you'd mentioned that the police had been called for a number of these incidents, correct?
Yes.
Are there any that are still pending or that you did decide to press charges on?
No, ma'am.
And you mentioned the CPS and their finding of reason to believe for October of 2022 incident.
Mm-hmm.
Did they go further with that, or why was there nothing since you did get such a letter?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Why did they not do anything else, like a removal or a family services plan?
So they threatened to remove MJ if Marcus did not leave the house, which he did not. He just happened to not be there on the days that they showed up. But she did threaten to remove MJ if he could not leave the house.
And so was there ever a last letter saying it's closed, we're not doing anything else from DFPS?
Yes, ma'am. That's the letter I was stating that they had my son as the victim.
Okay, so even though you were saying they found that Mr. Hughes was the perpetrator, there was a reason to believe they chose to do nothing else because they did not see Mr. Hughes in your home?
That's what I believe, yes. I know they did try to reach out to him, but he didn't want to speak with her.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, I pass this witness.
All right, anything on recross, Ms. Lambert?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Mitchell, to clarify, this CPS involvement was in October of 2022, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hughes continued to live with you until December of 2022?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and so with all the incidents that you've listed for the court, including the recent incident in October of 2022, you still made the decision for MJ to go live with his father?
I don't believe he poses a physical threat to MJ, just to myself and maybe a female around him. But I thought he was capable of keeping a roof over his head as well to best serve our child.
Okay. And so do you think that he's no longer capable of keeping a roof over MJ's head?
From what I've seen, no.
And what is that based on?
Him getting evicted. And I don't think that he can drive 20 miles or 20 minutes to school when his car got repoed as well. He might have it back now, but there's no guarantee that he can keep paying the bills.
Okay. But you do acknowledge that he is in a new residence now?
I acknowledge that, yes.
And he does have a vehicle now?
I know he had one. I don't know if he still has it. To be honest, I don't know.
Have there ever been any times where Mr. Hughes has withheld the child from you?
No.
Have there been times where you withheld the child from Mr. Hughes?
About 5 years ago, yes.
No further questions,
All right, Ms. Mongat, call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Marcus Hughes. Sir, what is your full name?
Marcus Hughes, Sr.
How are you related to MJ?
I am his father.
And sir, do you have any other children?
No, I don't.
Were you able to hear my opening statement at the beginning of this hearing along with Ms. Lambert's?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you also have a chance, sir, to hear all of Ms. Mitchell's testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the support, sir, were you wanting both current and back child support?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you are ordered to be the person who receives support, were you wanting reimbursement for the medical?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, sir, as far as the timeline for where your son has lived since his birth, would you agree to the locations that Ms. Mitchell testified to?
No, I do not.
Okay, sir. So where was your son born? City and state?
My son was born in St. Louis, Missouri. From the time he was about 4, when me and Ms. Mitchell got back together, I decided to move to Oklahoma for my job. From there, we were together, and I decided to call it quits. And I took another promotion to Waco, Texas. I moved me and MJ out there, and I told Whitney she was free to come if she wanted to, which she ended up doing. And I realized that me and her was not going to be able to work. So I ended up telling Ms. Mitchell that she had to leave my house, and she ended up I ended up putting my name on the house she's in right now, and I took it off. So she had that house by herself after the year. I do have documents stating that as well. From there, it was just me and MJ in Arkansas trying to find something for us to. Well, I was working doing little projects for my job. I came back to Ms. Mitchell because
Stop. I'm sorry. This is going way past the question. The state will lead you a little bit better through this at this point, sir.
My apologies.
I'll go into narratives. Thank you.
Huh?
A question should never be, unless you're telling a story about a specific incident, a question should never be an answer should never be more than 3 or 4 sentences long, but sir. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, my bad.
No problem.
My apologies.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mrs. Bongat. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. Hughes, you agreed with St. Louis and Oklahoma, but rather than her saying Temple and then Killeen, you said Waco, but your name is somehow on her home?
Yes, ma'am. For Whitney to get her home, I had to put my name on it because she needed a double income. So I do have documents that that house she's in currently is with my name on it at the time. At this time, it does not have my name on it at all.
Okay, so,
right, so is this a rental or is this a purchase?
No, it's a rental. So she needed like
sorry.
extra income. She couldn't.
You answered my question. Thank you.
My apologies.
Okay, so how long, sir, would you say MJ has been with you?
MJ been with me since fall of 2022.
And were you aware of the CPS investigation?
No, I was not. I spent a lot of time in Dallas, so that's why I ended up moving to Dallas. So when she called them, I had no idea.
Okay. And so the rental that you assisted Ms. Mitchell with is the current Killeen address?
Yes, ma'am, but that's now all of her name this time. I don't know if she renewed it or I don't know.
Okay. And sir, I understand you want to give me details, but whose name it is not currently the issue. As far as Miss Mitchell having every weekend with your son, has it been going well, or do you also have issues with that plan?
In the past, up until recently, I've been asking for MJ, but it used to be a lot of problems. I did send Ms. Lambert all the text messages of her canceling and skipping.
Okay, so if Miss Mitchell had exercised every visit, you're fine, but you're saying now that she was inconsistent in exercising her weekends.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Given the distance between your two homes, would you be open, sir, to having set times for your son to communicate with a parent not in physical possession of him?
Yes, ma'am. That's more than fine.
What amount do you earn?
I earn $49,000 a year. So I'm really base salary at this point.
And is that how they consider you, sir, or are you still technically hourly?
I'm currently still hourly at this point. Yes, ma'am.
What amount per hour?
26 hours.
How many hours per week?
40.
And is this one job your only source of income?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you had this job?
I've been with Amazon for 5 years.
And as far as your current address, sir, do you have any concerns with Ms. Mitchell having access to it or being updated if you move?
Yes, ma'am. I do, actually.
And what exactly is your concern?
I sent recordings to Ms. Lambert, but Whitney has been threatening me and just making me feel really unsafe. I know she recently came over here and didn't say anything, or it was just, she's making a lot of threats and it's making me uncomfortable.
What was the most concerning threat?
You mind if I put it up on my phone real quick?
Actually, sir, I'll go ahead and pass you as a witness. If Ms. Lambert has seen this all, she can direct your questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Pass as witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Lambert, again, remind him that technically text messages are hearsay, and but he can testify what the mom has actually told him one way or the other, person to person. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hughes, I want to back up just a little bit regarding this agreement with how MJ came to live with you. What was the discussion that you and Ms. Mitchell had regarding MJ coming with you to the Dallas area?
Whitney felt like it was a concern that it would be cheaper for MJ to stay out of daycare and he could go with me. That's what she felt.
And was this a conversation that the two of you had?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you had this conversation, was there any set date on MJ returning to Bell County?
She used to get him Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and bring him back Sunday.
And was it your understanding that that's how the access would continue to go, that MJ would primarily live with you and mom would have him from Thursday through Sunday?
Yes, ma'am, up until he goes to school.
And what was your understanding of the agreement when he was to go to school?
Up until he goes to school, she still will continue her weekends.
And then your understanding was that you would enroll him in school?
We really didn't talk about it, but yes, ma'am. I just thought it go along with his daycare that I put him in.
When or if ever did you find out that Ms. Mitchell thought that MJ would be returning to Bell County?
You said what, ma'am?
When did you find out that Ms. Mitchell's expectation was that MJ would return to Bell County and that she would enroll him here?
The week I told her that I already enrolled him, that's when she said something.
Okay. Are you also the one who enrolled MJ into therapy?
I'm the one who enrolled him in therapy, yes, ma'am.
And what was your reasoning for enrolling MJ into therapy?
I just feel like MJ needs someone to talk to. And I felt like at the time, I seen him getting upset easy. And on top of that, I seen him with me and his mother fighting. I just felt like it was too toxic for him to stay in that type of environment. So I just wanted him to go talk to somebody who is the middle person.
And when you enrolled him into therapy, did you disclose those concerns to the therapist?
Not 100% of it, no, ma'am.
What reason did you give the therapist for why you were enrolling MJ into therapy?
Basically that he was getting angry easy.
Had any incidents occurred that triggered you enrolling him in October?
I noticed he was just getting upset easily at everybody. So no, it wasn't nothing like he got suspended from school or anything.
Is MJ enrolled in any extracurricular activities then?
He just finished up with basketball and now he is in football. He's in football and he's still doing therapy.
Mom mentioned that you were evicted last year. Are you now in a stable living situation?
So with the eviction, can I explain what happened?
I just need to know, one, if you were evicted.
I got eviction letters, but I paid them. Every time I was getting evicted, I ended up paying more than what I had to just to cancel the eviction and continue the next process.
Were you ever physically removed from the property?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And are you now in a different property?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you economically able to afford the rent and or mortgage at that property?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live alone?
No, ma'am.
Who do you reside with?
Me and my wife stay together and it's just MJ.
And does MJ have his own room?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mom mentioned that she had some educational concerns regarding MJ. Have you spoken to MJ's teachers?
Yes, ma'am. I stay talking to him. I talk to him about once a week, every week, actually.
And do you have any concerns about MJ's educational progression?
MJ's doing really good. As far as I know, he's doing excellent. He's trying. He's been, as far as behavior-wise, he's excellent. So I know it's probably just, he's grasping it really slower than the usual kids, but he's doing excellent for real.
If the school were to suggest or put into place an IEP or an improvement plan for his grades, would you be willing to comply and make sure MJ had the support that he needed to succeed?
Absolutely. 100%. Okay.
Now, regarding the non-disclosure and not wanting to disclose your address to Ms. Mitchell, does she know where you currently reside?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you recently provide her with that information?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you hesitant to do so?
Very much so.
Okay. You mentioned that she had harassed you. Was this verbally, face-to-face, over the phone, through text message?
It was over the phone, but I recorded our conversations every time I talked to Ms. Mitchell. So that's how I got the evidence. And
do you believe that the threats were such that she would cause physical harm to you?
Ma'am, when she said it, I just fear for my own life because I don't know where she's coming from with it. She was not specific. She was just telling me I know how to get at you or get to you.
Has your communication with Ms. Mitchell always been support?
Honestly, no, it hasn't actually.
And when did it begin to decline?
I want to say around July when she realized that I was seeing someone. She got upset about it and started just acting really emotional.
When the two of you do your exchanges, is it just the two of you? Is it just Ms. Mitchell present and you present?
Lately it has been, but sometimes I used to bring my wife a lot.
Are there ever any negative exchanges between your wife and Ms. Mitchell?
No, ma'am.
Do you ever feel the need to have someone with you because you feel unsafe?
Yes, ma'am.
And does Ms. Mitchell bring someone with her?
Occasionally, not often, but occasionally.
Are you able to make those exchanges peacefully?
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the current visitation of every weekend, do you believe that it's in MJ's best interest to be on the road every weekend?
No, ma'am.
Does it interfere with his extracurricular activities?
Yes, ma'am.
And so in the event that you are granted primary, are you asking for the court to put a standard possession order in place, which would have 1 weekend a month for Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, ma'am.
And the same, you understand, would be in place if Ms. Mitchell's granted primary, you would get 1 weekend a month of your choosing?
Yes, ma'am.
And you still believe that's in MJ's best interest?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There was one more question that I wanted to ask regarding Ms. Mitchell's allegations of family violence. Have you ever been arrested for any family or domestic violence?
No, ma'am.
Any charges or convictions?
No, ma'am.
Whether concerning Ms. Mitchell or anyone else?
No, ma'am.
Nothing pending currently?
Not at all.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, man. Sir, I'm gonna go ahead and go right to the elephant in the room. Did you accidentally, or I'm sorry, did you ever shoot Miss Mitchell with a firearm?
I did, and she mentioned that in the first one.
Okay. I'm asking the question now. When did that take place,
yes,
sir?
ma'am. Huh?
When did that take place?
3 years ago in St. Louis.
All right, then. And was it a handgun, rifle? What are we talking about?
It's just a handgun.
It's just a handgun. It's just a handgun.
Okay. And what were the circumstances of that happening, sir?
Cleaning my gun and accident discharge.
I don't believe you.
And I had a statement from the police that Whitney gave that she said the same thing.
Okay. All right. The other incidences that you heard her testify to, sir, the soap in the eye, the stabbing. Let's take them one at a time.
No, ma'am.
Any of those? Did any of those ever take place, sir? To the best of your recollection?
Sir, none of that took place at all.
All right. The situation with CPS. Did you? What was that situation as you recall, sir?
I was out of town in Dallas at the time. So when
right.
they even when she mentioned it, I was not there at all.
Are you saying that okay? Well, first off, they said she was saying that CPS tried to contact you and that you didn't cooperate with them. Did you or did you not do that, sir?
I didn't get a phone call from anybody, sir.
Were you ever made aware of the circumstances while they were going on, sir?
I found out about it, and that's when I left. As far as like moving out of her house and everything, completely.
All right, run that by me again. You found out about the CPS circumstances?
Because when she got upset, she tells me everything. So when she got upset, she told me about that, and I felt totally uncomfortable. And so I ended up just completely like moving to Dallas completely.
All right. Anything else, sir?
What I'm wanting from me and Whitney is to be on support, like just be cordial. I don't have no problems with her. And I just, like I said, my main focus is making sure MJ is okay, making sure that he is developed, being around, being in sports, being a kid, if that makes sense. So my main, that's the only thing I want for both of us. To have that understanding.
All right. Anything on redirect, Ms. Bongat?
As far as you and she, well, it being uncomfortable for the two of you, is MJ kept out of it as much as possible?
From my side, 100%. Ain't got nothing to do with him.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Your Honor, I pass this witness.
All right, anything on redirect on recross, Ms. Lambert?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Hughes, one last question. Well, one last question. You said it was a handgun. What was the make and caliber of the handgun that you that accidentally discharged, sir?
It was a 92 Beretta.
92 FF, 92 F, or 92 FS?
You said what was the first one?
92 F or 92 FS?
F.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right.
Sir, can I say something, Your Honor?
Yeah, because Mr. Hughes, it's really hard to shoot somebody clean your gun. Okay, it really, the good judge is a big time gun guy. I gave my 92 FS to my son, so yeah. So I'm having a little trouble with that one, sir. So
no, that's understandable.
This one.
So if you see the time being that she mentioned it and then she'll say it's an accident, because the simple fact is I was literally just cleaning my gun and it was aiming her way. We was on two different couches. I was on a short couch, she was on a long couch. When it happened, I was cooperating with the police. The police seen that it was no evidence and seen that everything was cool and it was no charges pending or even made at that time.
T-shirt, you done left fingerprints and all. You are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real.
Whitney is called it's just literally her doing a diverge, like, okay, well, he did this and it's that. And it's like, none of that's accurate. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Okay. All right, sir. You said you received several eviction. You had this eviction thing. What was that? Was that an apartment or a house? What we were talking about?
So it was a.
Where was it? An apartment or a house?
Apartment.
All right. And you said that you received several different eviction notice for failure to obviously apartments usually a failure to pay your rent. So how many different times were you asked to leave for failure to pay your rent, sir?
At least I want to say about 6 or 7 times, and it's a reason.
Okay, well, I'll let you get to that in a moment.
Yes, sir.
All right then. And what was the time frame? So there were 6, 7 separate months that the management sent you these notices, and okay. And what was the time frame for those? Was all those in 2023 or 2022? What we're talking about? 2023?
That was all those was in 2023.
All right then. And when did you move into your new place?
October.
2023?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that a house or an apartment?
Apartment.
All right then. All right, man. So where was okay? So and when did you first move into that original apartment?
The old one?
Yeah, the one you got all the eviction notices on.
December of December of 2022.
All right. So for approximately a 10 to 11 month time frame, you received between 6 to 7 requests for eviction or notices to vacate, which you probably got first. Why did you get so many, sir, in that short amount of time?
So the situation was, I felt like at the time I wanted to put my son into daycare, and the daycare cost me about $625. I didn't feel the need for him to stay home, and I spoke with Whitney, and she went to the daycare with me, but she felt the need not to pay anything and felt like, it's your problem, you deal with it. And I do have text messages showing that. It's literally me just trying to make sure that my son was still upkeep in his education and make sure he was his social environment. So I ended up getting 2 jobs to pay my rent and my son's daycare. I do have proof of that. I just sent it to Ms. Lambert as well.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, any other questions, Ms. Bongat?
What were you doing for a living prior to this job that started in January?
No, I've worked for the same company for almost 6 years now. I just transferred from the St. Louis one to this one.
Okay, so the $23.50 you testified to earlier has been your pay amount since January?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then for the 6 months prior to that was the $19 an hour?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's it. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Your Honor, I pass this witness.
All right, Ms. Lambert, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a couple of questions. Ms. Mitchell, do you recall our initial interview on January 3rd of this year?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember discussing the shooting that you stated occurred March 13th of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, do you remember telling me that you believe that to be an accidental shooting?
Yes, and I just said it was an accident. He didn't know it was loaded.
Okay. And so is your testimony that he was not intending to shoot you or intending to cause you harm?
Yes, that's why I said it was an accident. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then during the time that you were stating that you believe that Mr. Hughes was providing an unstable home due to the eviction, you've heard Mr. Hughes' testimony now that he was facing financial hardship for your child being in daycare?
Yes, but he got evicted on the months that MJ was in school, not daycare.
And so were you providing any financial support to contribute towards daycare or MJ's living expenses while he was in Mr. Hughes' household?
Yes, I did send money, especially when MJ was sick, a couple of times for him to go get Tylenol, for him to cook him some soup. Whenever he asked for money, I would send him money.
Previously in our hearing today, I asked you if you provided any financial support for MJ while he was with Mr. Hughes, and you stated you did not. Are you now contradicting that testimony?
I haven't as of recently, but back then, yes, I did.
Okay, and so you're stating that it would be things for medicine or soup, but no
Medicine
monthly support?
Yeah, no monthly support, but it was for things that he needed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, anything on redirect, Ms. Bongott?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Mitchell, when you testified to me earlier, you told me something totally different, and I'll go back and listen to the audio again just to make sure I heard it right about that incident dealing with the Beretta. Do you both solemnly swear or affirm your testimony gonna give you today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The state calls Miss Mitchell. Ma'am, what is your full name?
Whitney Renee Mitchell.
Have you and Mr. Hughes ever lived together, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
How long ago did that end, excuse me?
He officially moved out of my house it was the end of December, I believe, of last December or January, one of the two. Well, okay, he moved out. We moved separate places. He moved to Texarkana, then he moved back to my house, and then he moved to Dallas.
And that was end of 22, beginning of 23?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, first of all, how's this child?
He just turned 6.
Okay. Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Bongott.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, ma'am, who does Marcus Jr. live with?
His dad.
How long has that been the case?
He's been there officially, like full-time, since school started in August.
Of this year?
Yes.
Put your hand down, sir. You got a chance to testify in a moment. We don't do raise hands in court. You've been sworn in as a witness, and at the time you'll get a chance to testify once the state calls you as a witness. Thank you.
All right.
And so, Ms. Mitchell, you and Mr. Hughes Sr. were basically splitting weeks at the Thursday and Sunday timeframe, so there wasn't a week that your son didn't have time with both of you?
No.
Has there been a break, or has that arrangement changed where you were switching off Thursdays and Sundays?
Yeah, since school started.
And was that because of your son's schedule, or did one of you decide it wasn't going to work anymore without school starting?
Mr. Hughes was very insistent and threatening me that MJ needed to be there with him for school.
Going forward, ma'am, would you be comfortable updating Mr. Hughes if you moved from your current residence or if any of your other contact information needed updating?
I don't know if I'd feel comfortable disclosing my address, no, not with our history.
And since you bring that up, ma'am, have there been any incidents of physical violence between the two of you in the last 2 years?
Yes, ma'am, and I've sent in the evidence for that. We've had CPS involved once. There's been, all of our interactions have been with and our son present.
And ma'am, have there been any charges or even convictions resulting from any of those incidents?
I don't believe any charges, no, or convictions.
And what exactly did the CPS involvement look like? Family-based services or actual court time?
It was just, she came to the house a couple of times to talk to MJ. I don't know how to answer that, but when the police were called, they came out.
And where did these incidents occur, ma'am? What city?
The one where CPS was called, it was in Bell County, in Killeen.
And after the person came out, ma'am, do you know whether there was anything like a finding of neglect, abuse, or recommendations about removal from the home?
Yes, it says alleged type of abuse or neglect. It says neglectful SUPV, and then the findings are reason to believe that the alleged abuse or neglect did occur.
Was that against you or against Mr. Hughes Sr.?
In here it says alleged perpetrator Marcus Hughes, alleged victim was Marcus Hughes, is what they have on here.
Okay. Would there be any other, or excuse me, any similar paperwork where you are identified as the alleged perpetrator?
Not that I have any. No, the only thing that I can think of is whenever I was shot a couple years ago by him.
And do you recall the actual, sorry, Your Honor.
Run that by me, ma'am. You're alleging that Mr. Hughes shot you with a firearm?
Yes, it was an accident, but it did happen because he can be very reckless.
Okay. All right. You just gave me the equivalent of about 8 shots of espresso, ma'am. Okay, sorry. So yeah, because I'm going to say this hearing's over. Okay. All right. Thank you. Whew. All right. I'm sorry. You may proceed, Ms. Bongat.
Thank you, Your Honor. Aside from what sounds like the accidental discharge of a firearm that actually hit you, ma'am, have there been any other instances of weapons being used in y'all's relationship?
Weapons, as in he's used my, in my closet, I have a wooden rod. He's used that to choke me. He's bitten me. He's cut me with a knife. He's cut me with the top of my spatula. He's whatever he can find, he'll use.
When was the last incident any of those things, or excuse me, when was the last time, date-wise, that any of those things occurred?
It was in April when he threw his phone at my face and gave me a black eye, of April 23.
And in what location did that take place? One of your homes?
No,
a public place?
Waco. I'm sorry. Waco and QT, at QT in Waco.
Okay.
We were doing an exchange.
It's a gas station. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, QT gas. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
And ma'am, were there any witnesses to that event who called police based on it?
No, there was one person that attempted to walk up to Marcus and I to make sure that I was okay, and Marcus popped the trunk to act like he was going to pull his gun out on the guy. Other than that, no one else was around.
Has any of the violence you've described been directed at your son?
No.
So as far as Mr. Hughes being a good parent, aside from that CPS report you mentioned, are there any other concerns about his parenting?
I'm concerned about him being able to keep a roof over my son's head.
Why do you say that, ma'am? You had mentioned an eviction, but do you have any other details?
Yes, I also sent documentation of that. Mr. Hughes, from April, he was served an eviction notice. He was also served in June, in July, August, September, October. And then he moved, as he told me, but never told me where.
All right, ma'am, I'll go real quick. These eviction notice from separate different places, or just one different place? You're alleging that he paid it up and then they had to do it again, or what we're talking about?
Yep, he paid it up at the last minute, and then they had to keep serving him every month until he finally moved out.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Bongat.
Thank you, Your Honor. And ma'am, it sounds like you mentioned he covers the health coverage for your son, and he does have the money to eventually pay. Has he told you, or have you witnessed the reason why that keeps occurring, the repeated eviction notices?
No, he would never admit it to me.
Was there anything else, ma'am, you wanted the court to consider with these orders, whether they be temporary or final today?
Yes, I would also like it to consider that my son is also struggling in school. I don't know what he's doing with him at home, but when he comes to me, he's practicing, and he goes to his dad, I just got a notification from his teacher, he's still falling behind. He needs to be somewhere stable in order to keep excelling in school, or to be able to excel in school, because he's not able to do it right now.
And so, ma'am, what exactly in your household do you believe would be a better environment for your son than what he currently has?
One, I can provide a stable environment. I've already been doing that. Two, anytime he's here, we go over everything. I have food in my fridge. There's no need for anything. There's no need for anyone else to be watching him while I'm at work. My job is very flexible with me, and they know that when MJ comes with me, I will be taking him to school, picking him up. There's no need for after school care. And I will also be working with MJ every day to make sure that he is excelling in school. I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right. So what's the deal, ma'am? What you
So
saying he did not? Okay, you just okay. So you tell me what you said. I want you to tell me what. Okay.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, I got two different stories now. So which one's right? Okay.
My story hasn't changed. He says he didn't know the gun was loaded, but he did point it to my head and he did shoot me in the arm. The way that I was laying on the couch, he would have had to have aimed it at me for it to go the way that it went through my body.
Okay. All right, well.
That has never changed.
And you told the police who came to investigate that it was an accidental shooting, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'll let the state call the next witness, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Marcus Lamar Hughes Sr. Sir, what is your full name?
Marcus Lamar Hughes Sr.
And at this time, sir, you're not needing any DNA testing to confirm such?
Not that kid, no ma'am.
Okay. Sir, were you able to hear my initial opening statement to the court describing the two agreements that you and the mother have?
Yes, I did.
Were you also able to hear Ms. Mitchell's testimony?
Yes, I did.
All right, sir. Was there anything in my opening statement or Ms. Mitchell's testimony that you disagreed with as far as accuracy?
Yes, actually. I would
okay,
like
first thing.
I would like the subject that my schedule with MJ, I'm working with him at home. Also, the reason why I fell behind is because that whole time I was paying for daycare. Miss Whitney Mitchell did not want to help at all. I have receipts coming out of my account. I have receipts and text messages. She sent me $100 one month. This started the 4th. So it wasn't in July. So I made sure I wanted to put him in daycare because I wanted him to build that social skills and be around other people. Miss Mitchell didn't want him to be in school because she couldn't afford it at the time. Also decided to put him in therapy. So every week around lunchtime at school, I make sure that he has that able to talk to a therapist. And yeah, the reason why I'm here is just trying to get some type of help. Every time I try to ask her for help, she says no or she can't do it. So
okay. Backing up a bit, sir. It sounds like you just wanted to let the court know about all the things you've done for your son. None of those are necessarily what the mother had said you don't do. Is that accurate to say?
With me and Whitney, great mother. I just feel like she has a lot of anger, so that's why I wouldn't address it right there. My main focus is honestly focusing on my son and trying to make sure that he is in a comfortable environment, make sure he's great, and make sure he's able to
sir.
succeed.
I'm going to go ahead and start directing more questions, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are you aware of there being any criminal charges or convictions against Ms. Mitchell for anything?
No.
Do you have any convictions, sir, for family violence?
No.
Are you aware of any of the incidents that the mother testified to as being incidents of violence between the two of you?
Yes.
Okay, here's real quick. Here's the thing, sir. I don't want to go into any major detail because technically, depending on when these items were done, there may not be a statute of limitations that run on this. And technically, if something comes out in court that you still can be criminally charged for, that will be problematic. So at this time, don't do a lot of explanation, but you can confirm or deny that something happened, and we'll take it from there. But anything that's less than 2 years old, I really have a concern with. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hughes, are you also aware of the CPS incident that Ms. Mitchell testified to?
I was aware of it, but I was not in that. I wasn't there. I was in Dallas at that time.
Okay. Are you aware of CPS being involved in her interactions with your child?
She told me about it. She called me about it.
All right, sir. Was there anything else you wanted the court to consider for these orders, whether they're temporary or final?
They're temporary. Yeah, they're temporary.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll start with you then, Ms. Mitchell. What are you asking? What else do you want to tell the court?
I would just like to make the court aware that Mr. Hughes also answered the door when CPS knocked on my door, and I do have a Ring camera to show that. And he did not move out in the beginning of December, CPS also walked in here when he was supposed to get out, but he said he was not leaving. He was willing for them to take our son than rather leave. So that is not.
You remember the caseworker's name?
I have her name in my phone.
Good enough, then. We'll get, don't worry, the baby's getting a lawyer. And
okay.
We'll dig all this up. So here we go. Anything else?
I just want him to be in a stable environment. He needs to be home with his mom.
Okay. That's a closing argument. Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, you're up, Mr. Hughes. I'm looking at giving mom that week of Christmas that she's got airline tickets for. So what else are you asking me to do here today, sir?
If we can, because I also signed MJ up for, hold on, I'm sorry. Sorry about this.
Yes, find a spot to sit down, sir.
We signed him up for basketball, so I was wondering if she could work with us and see if he could come to go to the games. Because he has a lot of energy, and I want him to be able to express that type of energy he has.
When's basketball season start, sir?
December the 1st.
And these are on the weekends?
The games are weekends, practices during the weekdays. Practice, with him.
No, sir, I'm not looking at taking away mom's visitation. I'm not looking at changing anything. I'm looking at making it a court order. So I don't think basketball is the future for the month of December.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, but anything else you're asking the court to do? Anything else you think I need to know, sir?
Like I said, I just want to build that co-parent with Whitney. Be able to co-parent really well with her.
All right, here's what we're going to do, folks. I'm going to name you both joint managing conservators of this child until now, and I'm not going to give either one of y'all the right to decide domicile. I get that right now. So for right now, I'm going to keep your schedule as is, but I'm the person who decides where the child lives going forward, and I'm going to hold that in abatement until I get a full report from the child's lawyer. I'm going to go ahead and appoint Nora Farah as the attorney for this child, because she's in Waco and she needs to drive to DeSoto to visit the school and get copies of the school records and interview people there. I at least don't want her to have to drive all the way from Killeen to do this, but she can always drive to Killeen. She can always drive to DeSoto as she sees fit in these circumstances. I want to give Ms. Farah at least 30 days to do an initial investigation, because I've heard a lot of things here today, folks, that definitely gives this court cause for concern. Not least of which is the accidental firearm discharge that actually wounded the mother. I'm kind of a gun person, and no, that doesn't happen. Okay, accident or non-accident, that's not good, sir. So the bottom line is, first off, sir, you have a right to you have a concealed carry permit.
Not in the state of Texas, no. So I don't have a firearm at all in Texas.
You have a concealed permit from another state, sir?
No, sir.
Go ahead. Let me hear a closing statement at this time, and I'll start with the ad litem, then go to the state, and after the lawyers have finished their closing statements, I'll let the individual parties make a closing statement if they wish. So I'm going to start with the ad litem, and then go to Ms. Lambert, then go to Ms. Bongat, and then I'll go to Ms. Mitchell, and then to Mr. Hughes. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think based upon the testimony and the evidence that's been presented, it's clear that the parents have a volatile co-parenting relationship. However, I don't believe that any testimony or evidence has been presented to show that the father or the mother is a danger to the child. I believe that what has happened in this case is that the parents, as you can see, lack communication skills when communicating with one another, and we're not clear on what the agreement would be when MJ left to live with dad in December of 2022. I think that maybe now at this point for Ms. Mitchell, that may be a regrettable decision, and she wishes maybe that she had not made that. However, she cannot use the arm as a court to reverse a decision that maybe she wished she would not have made. And I feel like that's what's attempting to happen here. I do not believe that there is a basis to uproot this child who is enrolled in therapy, who by both parties' admission may need some additional assistance with school. And it seems that just as likely a reason for why MJ is suffering is the fact that he's on the road every single weekend, going back and forth from Dallas and Killeen, which would be difficult for any child, especially if there's one who, as mom has stated, may have behavioral issues, may also have some educational challenges. And so I would recommend, Your Honor, that the child remain with dad. I would caution both parents to be in communication with the school in order to see if he does need additional assistance and allow him to remain into therapy. But I don't see any reason why dad ought not to be primary, as he's been acting in that role since December of 2022. However, again, even if the court in its discretion and wisdom finds that mom ought to be made primary, I don't believe that she would be a danger to the child. I do think both parents would probably be a benefit from being in co-parenting courses as well.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Mongat.
Your Honor, the state's requesting that this court make rulings with regard to.
All right, I'll listen to a closing statement at this time from Ms. Mitchell. Any type of closing argument you'd like to make at this time, ma'am?
Yes, I would. I would like to say back to Ms. Lambert's response to wishing that the courts would change it. When me and Ms. Lambert spoke before court last time.
You're not testifying.
I'm not testifying. Okay. Things were said and stated. I've talked to her many times and have said and shown messages that I don't agree with it. I don't like that he has sat in court and lied, especially about CPS. He opened, as I said in November in our last court hearing, he opened the door for her. And then she asked for me and he said she's not here. So she called me immediately. So he was not in Dallas at that time. She also reached out multiple times to try to fix this matter, and he refused to speak to her. He also saw her here when I got home from vacation that December, and she said, "Hi, Marcus," and he looked at her and rolled his eyes and drove off. So he's been involved. He just didn't care to get involved to help save our son, to keep our son with us. The shooting, my story has never changed. He says he didn't know the gun was loaded. He did aim it at my head. I very well could have been dead at this point. I won't downplay or lie about that. The abuse, he knows it happened. I know it happened. Our son knows it happened. My fear going into it is that this is going to be a repeat pattern and my son will have to keep witnessing this. He is not doing excellent in school. As I've said, I spoke with his teacher right before our court hearing last time, and the teacher said he knows 6 sight words out of 67, and she's worried.
Okay, yeah, testimony again, ma'am, again.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. But that's just what he knows. 6 out of 7 sight words. I can say that factually. I do provide a stable living. This will be my 3rd time signing this lease. I haven't been late. I don't plan on moving. He's moved out of the district, and while he has made special accommodations, I don't know that he will remain at that school next year. Who's to say that he wouldn't change him schools? So I am concerned about that environment as well. I don't think the therapist can speak on the domestic violence, on whether that has had an impact on my son or not, because from what he's told Miss Lambert and I and the therapist, it's been 3 different lies. So I don't think that you can play a part in that. My issue is that he's lied here in court several times under oath. And you guys will never know the truth because it's a he say, she say. But I don't want my son to think that's okay and a part of life. And that's not okay. I don't want him to grow up this way. I'm trying to prevent that from happening. I want my son to grow up to be a functional human being. And this is what I'm worried will happen, is what's happening right now at school. So I just ask the judge that you take that in consideration.
All right. Hughes, your turn.
I have nothing to say. At the end of the day, it's about MJ. It really is. It's what's best for him. Yeah, I provided the daycare. I provided the therapist. I got him into the sports. It's literally just, I begged Whitney time and time and through text messages, "Hey, can you help me with daycare?" "No, you got it." "Hey, can you please help me? Send me just $100. "No, I ain't got it." Or it's always a reason why she could not financially help or just even help in general. So it is.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Lambert, I want you to get a subpoena, and I want you to subpoena the child's current school records and get a business record affidavit on those and file them with the court. And I want you to subpoena the CPS correspondence with our template correspondence as far as that file is concerned. And if you need to set it up for a hearing to have them bring it in that file in directly, or if you can get it and file it with a business record affidavit, but please do so. But again, I don't feel like I have to make a full decision in this matter until the beginning of we got some time because school's not over with yet. And I'm going to come up with something definitely before school starts again and before the summer visitation has to kick in between the parties. So again, but I want to see what the school is saying is going on, and I want to see what happened with that CPS report. So, all right, folks, so that's what I'm looking at. So right now, everything is per the temporary order. Like I say, I want to get those other items, and I don't anticipate needing another hearing, but I do want to see what those items say before I come to my final decision in this matter. So thank you both very much, Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Hughes, and I'll have that the Atlanta get me that data, and the court will make a ruling upon the as far as custody and child support, retroactive child support, cash medical in favor. But again, I want to see those other two items. I gotta do a little research on a couple of side things that I want to take a look at too. So anyway, so right now the temporary order is still in full force effect. I'll see everybody.